All right, up here I'm just going to talk about some of the election stuff. I'm changing up kind of the formula of the channel a bit, kind of just doing a bit more commentary, you know, kind of not worrying about, if it's opinion or not, but we're still going to go over all the facts, but I do want to still be able to voice my opinion. For this first video, I'm going to go over a lot of the election stuff, some of the stuff that's been going around, that's probably that would affect the election in some way. Up first, we got why this year will be the first time Mike Tyson will vote. Mike Tyson, 54, has never voted before. He's changing that this election year. This will be my first time voting, Tyson said in a tweet Tuesday. I never thought I could because of my felony record. I'm proud to finally vote. That goes in with kind of a new law that went in, that went into 2019. Tyson's home state of Nevada signed a law to restore voting rights to all persons convicted of felony upon release from prison in 2019, which will allow them to participate in this year's election. So that's, I guess, good for Mike Tyson, but Bloomberg in Florida is paying $20 million in debt for people's debt for 31,000 Florida felons so that they can cast a ballot in November. Representative Matt Gaetz has called for a criminal investigation into billionaire Mike Bloomberg, who paid off $20 million in debt for more than 31,000 convicted felons in Florida so that they can vote in November. That it's kind of almost sounding like Bloomberg is bribing these people for the vote. It's like, I'll pay off your debt, you vote Democrat, or, whatever he says. Doesn't mean that they will, but this could be really bad for Bloomberg. But he's a billionaire. Who knows if anything will really happen. If Bloomberg was offering to pay off people's credit card debt, Gaetz added, you would obviously see the value in that. When you improve someone's net worth by eliminating their financial liabilities, that's something of value, he went on. I'm sure there's a lot of people in debt that would love to have their financial problems, just gone. Normally, it would be very difficult to prove that was directly linked to impacting whether or not someone was going to vote, but they literally wrote their own admission. According to the Washington Post, Bloomberg wrote in a memo about the scheme, "We have identified a significant vote share that requires a nominal investment. The data shows that in Florida, black voters are a unique universe unlike any other voting bloc where the Democratic support rate tends to be 90-95%, the memo continued. Gaetz said in a separate interview with Fox Business Network host Lou Dobbs, "This is a specific inducement to a specific segment of voters to get them to vote in a certain way, and I think it could be a crime, and it almost seems like it." Bloomberg said in a statement, "We know to win Florida, we will need to persuade, motivate, and add new votes to the Biden column. This means we need to explore all avenues for finding the needed votes when so many votes are already determined." So I guess get felons to vote then. And I guess, bribe them to do it. Maybe vote a certain way. Because that almost seems like Bloomberg's intent from what it's... from Daily Mail, at least. I mean, it almost kind of seems like Bloomberg is trying to pay off some people. He's got the money to do it, and yeah, this could be some serious election interference. We've also got Eric Eggers, George Soros funding efforts for voting loopholes and get out the vote campaigns. Billionaire leftist George Soros funds both legal challenges against voting laws and get out the vote campaigns to assist Democrats, explained Government Accountability Institute research director Eric Eggers. Legal organizations filing lawsuits that undermine the integrity of elections regarding voting laws have the same benefactors as leftist get-out-the-vote organizations such as the now defunct Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, ACORN, and La Raza, Eggers remarked. "We've discovered that the people that were filing lawsuits to protect what we found to be notable loopholes that help make elections and keep elections very vulnerable to fraud where the same groups shared a funding source with these groups like ACORN and La Raza," Eggers stated. Organizations funded by Soros's Open Society foundations round up and wrestle as many potential voters, illegal or otherwise, as they can, Eggers said. He added that ballots collected through such operations are then forced through the loopholes the lawyers were fighting in court to protect. The Washington Free Beacon reported on George Soros funding the Center for Popular Democracy Action Fund, an organization running voter drives and challenging voter identification laws. It's almost starting to look, even George Soros could, maybe come under some investigation for election interference, because he's not from America. So, and if he's just shoveling money into all these, nonprofit organizations to, keep loopholes and cast ballots from illegals or dead people or whatever to try to get the votes into his candidate, then that's a serious issue. So, hope maybe this will become something, maybe not, but we'll see. We also got from the Daily Caller, bail fund promoted by Kamala Harris helped free serial domestic abusers. The Minnesota Freedom Fund helped bail out of jail 6 men accused of domestic violence between June and August. Court documents obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation show. The 2 of the men allegedly strangled women in their own homes, and all but one had been previously convicted of domestic violence, court records show. Yeah. So the bail fund promoted by Democratic Vice President nominee Kamala Harris helped bail out of jail 6 men accused of domestic violence between June and August. Court documents obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation show. Because they were just bailing out everybody. They didn't care. So who knows what else? Maybe arsonists. Who knows? Because she's been pretty silent lately. She's kind of been just talking about climate change. It's just climate change, even though there's been, 11 arrests for arson, and who knows who got away with it. We got also from Breitbart, dereliction of duty, Kamala Harris missing in action as wildfires burn her state. Senator Kamala Harris, who last week surveyed wildfire damage in her state of California, has primarily focused on climate change in the wake of the devastation across her state. Notably, few of the measures she sponsored or co-sponsored, if any at all, have had a meaningful impact on the Californians facing the wildfires dominating the West, some of which were magnified by arsonists. Another fact the senator has largely left unaddressed. Instead, she has continued to direct the bulk of her attention to climate change, alongside her radical left-wing colleagues, many of whom are also using the devastation to push for a Green New Deal. Which, if they just have better forest management, you need to burn off certain sections so that way you don't create wildfires like this happening. And that's what they tried to stop. That's what Democrats have been trying to stop this for years. It's like you need the forest management. You need to be able to contain it so that wildfires like this don't happen. Well, Kamala Harris doesn't really care. She's MIA except for just saying climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change. All right. Well, we also got Biden campaign calls a lid before noon for the 8th time this month. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has been calling it a day before noon on a regular basis. Reporters have taken to Twitter to announce the lid, the end of activities for the day, as they get word from the Biden campaign, and the lids have continued even as the November election looms closer. And there it is, at 9:22 a.m., 42 days before the election, a lid has been called by the Biden campaign. With 42 days left, Biden campaign again calls a lid on the day. No events, no questions. If Trump wins, we'll look back on the strategy of playing not to lose as a key factor, and some Democrats who can accurately gauge the feeling on the ground know it. We also got, there are 7 weekends left to campaign before Election Day. Tonight, the president is holding a rally in the battleground state of North Carolina. The Biden team called the lid at 8:34 a.m., which means we won't see the former vice president for the rest of the day. And this is why he's being called Sleepy Joe. So here's the calendar. September 2020. See all the days that he decided to call a lid before noon, I guess. I guess some days he managed to at least get to noon, but is this really going to stop the jokes about him being called Sleepy Joe? Because it almost seems like he's deciding to go to bed after like as soon as possible. Is that it? He's calling it a day, just going to bed? Well, He spent a third of this month during his what he's trying to be president, and he's not around. So apparently the polls show differently, though. CBS News YouGov poll showing close presidential race in Texas, but it's oversampled Democrats. Of course they do. They try to skew it. But Biden isn't even trying to do anything. 36% of the days in September so far, he's closed out early, done nothing on some of these days. So how is he so close in the polls? I think these polls are crap. I think any polls are crap at this point. None of them are right. Maybe Rasmussen, maybe, but it's hard to even tell at this point on who can be correct. We'll know maybe when the election on who's got like those perfect percentages, because I'm sure someone will, and then you're going to start seeing those pollsters are just going to become prominent as hell. We got Trump implements a new travel restrictions to Cuba, bans purchase of rum and tobacco. Today we proclaim that America will never be a socialist country, Trump said. Got a couple hiccups. President Trump announced new restrictions for American travelers going to Cuba, barring them from purchasing rum and tobacco or staying in Cuban government-funded hotels, which is every hotel, I guess, in Cuba. So you basically can't stay at a hotel in Cuba. You can't purchase their rum or tobacco, which is basically cutting off the funds for Cuba, which the pandemic has already done a pretty decent job of. But I think he's just trying to set that, he's not going to deal with communism and socialism. I think at this point, I think he's making his stand on that remark. We got from The Atlantic, if you can grocery shop in person, you can vote in person. Experts now say the health risk of casting an in-person ballot is relatively low. Will Democrats tell their voters that? Very likely. Very unlikely, because they want that mail-in voting. They want that low integrity, George Soros is probably going to want that, Bloomberg probably wants that, because they're the ones that are putting their money forth. So we'll see. Zeke Emanuel has a message for jittery Americans ahead of a momentous election. Voting in person during the coronavirus pandemic is about as safe as going to the grocery store, which is pretty safe. I guess just wear your mask, stay a little bit apart, cast your vote in person, and that's the safest we can be. It's the highest integrity we can have for this election, at least. That mail-in voting is just awful. We keep hearing, like, everywhere, every single day, like 2 or 3 different areas are just thousands and thousands and thousands of votes are just being either discarded, lost, destroyed, just not able to be processed. It's ridiculous. Mail-in voting will be terrible. But that's pretty much it then, I guess, on the election stuff that I have for today. Come back tomorrow with some more election stuff. I'll see you then. Later.